You have to make sure that your gray tanks are closed when you do this. All right, so let's talk about what we need to do to dump the tanks. First, there's a couple things that you're gonna need. The first thing that we have, this little piece of kit here, is a water meter. It's gonna measure the gallons of water that are going into the tank. All right, so now we're gonna hook up the water and hook up this water meter to the Nautilus. I'll run the hose into the side compartment, and then we're going to take the meter and spin it on to the hose, and then that is going to connect to the black tank flush, like so. You're also going to need a hose. I have a specific water hose that I just use for anything that's going to deal with the black tank. This hose will never touch the freshwater side of the rig. You are also going to need your phone with the Lippert One Control app on it, and that Lippert One Control app should be Bluetooth paired to your rig. You, of course, are going to have your sewer hose connected to the sewer. Since we've been here for a week, that's already hooked up. I'm not going to go through the process of hooking up the sewer hose. It's fairly self-explanatory. The one thing I will say is we use these Camco Rhino hoses, and they're flexible, so that allows us to add a little P-trap where the hose comes out of the side of the rig, and that P-trap can gather a little bit of water, and once it does that, it'll keep any smells or any those little tank flies from getting up into your rig. The other thing that we have hooked to our sewer outlet is this Valterra valve. We use this for the dumping process. This also is just helpful in case something happens, you have one extra valve that you have to open before everything comes out. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is open the Valterra knife valve, and then open your gray tank first. And I say this because if there's any problem with these sewer connections and there's going to be a leak anywhere, you're definitely going to want to find that out with gray water, not with black water. So release a little bit of gray and make sure that all the connections are good. If they're good, close up your gray tank. You're going to want to keep a little bit of water in there so you can wash everything out at the end. And then you're going to open your black tank. Once your black tank is opened, you're then going to turn on your flush. Once the flush is going, I kind of keep an eye on the 90-degree elbow, that clear 90-degree elbow that goes into the sewer inlet. All right, we're pretty much down to a trickle here. So the next thing that I am going to do is hold down this button to reset this valve back to 0. Now it's at 0, and now I'm going to go over, close this Valterra valve, and again, make sure that our gray tank is closed. You have to make sure that your gray tanks are closed when you do this. If they're not, this is all going to, everything from this flush from your black tank is going to back up into your gray tanks. You absolutely do not want to have that happen. Now, why are we doing the Valterra valve instead of the black tank valve? Well, my concern is that as everything is flowing out of the black tank, the black tank valve, just like the Valterra valve, is a knife valve, meaning that there is just a blade in there, and there's a little U-shaped cavity that blade's going to slide into, and that's going to stop the flow. Well, the problem is if there's any toilet paper coming out while you close that valve and it gets pushed into this U-shaped channel, then you're going to wind up with it's not going to seal. What's going to happen is it's not going to seal that well. So if that's going to happen, I would much rather have that happen on this $20 Valterra valve that I can just spin off and throw away and go buy another one, as opposed to it happening on my black tank valve that's up underneath the belly of the rig, and now I've got to dig in there to try and replace that one. So I leave the black tank valve on the Nautilus open throughout the process. So we'll close this Valterra valve, and then we're going to start our timer on our phone. Make sure you set a timer on your phone, because you'll get busy doing something else and you'll forget all about this. And then the next thing you know, you have flooded your trailer with black water. So set a timer. For me, that timer is usually 6 minutes, and that's based on the flow that we have coming out of the spigot. We use a pressure regulator on it that knocks it down to about 40 PSI. Now that I have my timer set, I will open the One Control app, which will give me the tank meters. And normally my black tank meter always sits at 2/3. That's just the way black tank meters work in this world. They're very rarely going to show empty. And I will just keep an eye on it. And when the alarm goes off on my phone, we should be really close to it turning to full, and we should be at around 26, 27 gallons of water going into the tank. At that point, once that alarm goes off, I stop the alarm, and then I will keep an eye on this flow meter right here at about 30 gallons. Now we're showing full on the One Control app. And at that point, I'll open that Valterra valve, let everything run out. And then I repeat this process one more time. So once the water is drained to the point where it's just a trickle, I'll close the Valterra valve, set the timer for 6 minutes again, reset the meter, actually reset the meter first, and then close the Valterra valve, and then just do the whole process all over again. On this dump, the water that's coming out is going to be pretty clear, which means our tanks are good and clean. All right, now that we're down to pretty much a trickle, we're going to keep that Valterra valve open, but we're going to close the black tank, and then we'll open the gray tank and let it dump. I usually wait for 10 or 20 seconds to put a little bit of water in that black tank, and we will kill the flush. I'll then open this just a touch to let the pressure out, so that when I take it off of this end, I don't get a bunch of water out of here and make a mess down in my bay. All right, so important safety tip while you're doing this. If somebody comes by and wants to talk to you about your brand new Brinkley while you're dumping your tanks, yes, this happens to us all the time, just turn off the flush water and start all over again. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to get distracted, and if you have closed a valve tank or a tank valve or anything like that, you're going to wind up flooding your rig. So if somebody wants to come up and have a conversation, either ask them politely to wait until you're done, or just turn off the water, have the conversation, and then start all over again.